Hi, this is Brendan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock Blog, and I'm here for another episode of Wuxia Weekend with Dion and Kenny, and we are talking about Wu Yen, a 2001 film directed by Johnny To and Wai Kai Fa. It has an all-star cast with Sammi Cheng, Anita Mui, and Cecilia Cheung. It's basically about sort of like a legend about an emperor who is enchanted by a fox spirit and involved in a love triangle with a female heroine and the fox spirit. And it's kind of a sort of a little bit of a nonsensical style movie, and mostly leans on the comedy. Before we get into sort of any of the plot details or any of that stuff, just what was everybody's opinion of it? And Kenny, why don't we start with you, because this was the movie that you recommended, so it's sort of.
Yeah, I watched this movie like when it was relatively new, and I was quite young then, and I enjoyed the movie. There's a bit of nostalgia goggling here. Watching it again now, I think I've matured since then, and I don't think though the movie's still like pretty amusing and stuff, but it wasn't as good as I remember it being. And this isn't the type of movie where you have to put much serious thought into anything, even the plots or characters. They've got very simple sort of lessons um, and sort of messages that they want to convey. And I think you mentioned before the podcast started that this was like sort of like a New Year movie. We released around the Lunar New Year time when sort of people you have time off. It's not like the equivalent of, I guess, a summertime movie for the West, right? So people just watch it and once and just forget about it, basically.
Well, they're kind of known for being a little bit on the wild side too, right? Like they kind of get a little bit crazy, the movies during that time.
Yeah, and they tend to be sort of comedies, and this falls like solidly in the category of Morley-Tell movies, which is slapstick humor type of genre, I guess. Sort of like sort of Stephen Chow, what he specializes in. But yeah, I enjoyed the movie. It's just not a good movie, but it's definitely entertaining. I think it's one of those things you can watch if you want to turn your mind off and watch a ridiculous spectacle unfold.
I'm not sure exactly how I feel about the movie. It was definitely entertaining in parts. You definitely cannot take this movie seriously at all. It was just wacky and crazy and kind of offbeat, like really offbeat. But it is entertaining, so you should at least watch it once. But it's not like the best movie that you're ever going to see. It's not the worst movie you'll ever see.
Yeah, and I think I might still be very immature, Kenny, because I thought it was hysterical, this movie. I was laughing the whole time, and I was like even noting how much I was just laughing a lot. And it's really silly humor. Like it's like a lot of the humor is like a little juvenile at times, or just kind of it's like a joke that keeps getting repeated over and over again. Like there's like one of the guards, the big joke with him is he's flatulent, and it just comes up constantly throughout the film. But I liked it. I think because a lot of the humor was very, even if you didn't understand like all of the cultural details or all the language, it was sort of conveyed in the physicality of the performances, and I thought that the enthusiasm of the actors kind of sold it for me. Like I just like, even if I didn't necessarily get the joke, I was laughing just because like Anita Mui was making like a funny face at the end of the line. And also there were a few moments in there where it was just like one joke like right after another. It was really relentless, and so that just kind of kept me laughing. But it's definitely a movie, and again, we're technically doing this as part of the Spirited Beast month because the premise is the king, he unleashes this fox spirit woman who falls in love with a character that he's trying to marry, but he ends up falling in love with the fox spirit himself because the woman he's trying to marry is ugly because she's got like a red stain on her face. And it's just, I don't know, it's the plot's also kind of amusing, even if you when you break down the basic ideas of it. But yeah, so I don't know. So I'm curious. What like you said that you enjoyed it more when you were a kid. So what did you enjoy less this time? I guess like what were some of the things that you thought were funny then, but you didn't find as funny this time?
I don't think I found it any less funny, but it's more the realization that the jokes are all very juvenile, that that more than anything else. It's just like, things that seemed like very sort of vocal, very, very like groundbreaking to me at the time because I've never seen these sorts of jokes before. But over the years, they're very the tropes that are iterated again and again in various other types of slapstick movies. And once you sort of get the pattern or the beat for it, then you can sort of see it coming, and it's less of an impact the more you see it. But I think it's one of those things where the first time you see it, you're going to be pretty taken by the movie. But as you watch it again, or not even just rewatching it immediately, but like several years down the line or whatever, I think it loses a bit of the entertainment factor on that side.
Okay. So what were some of you guys' favorite scenes in the movie, or just some of the stuff that you thought that you guys would agree worked?
I think we should talk about the cast first of all.
Okay.
The casting for the movie is one of the things that really makes it all work together. I mean, it's pretty star-studded. Anita Mui, Cecilia Cheung, and Sammi Cheng are all very big names in Hong Kong, and this is probably part of the reason why I got to watch the movie in the first place, just because it's one of those things where where it's just like these Heavenly Queens-ish people got together to make a slapstick movie, and it's just like, why would you not watch it?
Yeah. No.
And I think I don't remember if Sammi Cheng at that point had done much acting, and but I know Cecilia Cheung and Anita Mui have had a number of movies under their belt at that point in time, right? I think.
Well, Anita Mui died just a couple years later, I think. So she had a lot of movies prior to this one, but I thought that she really, I liked her as the Emperor. I mean, it was a really over the top performance, but I really, the thing that was surprising to me was I really believed her as a guy, she
really.
Yeah, I did. Not in the sense of like, oh, she's deceiving me, like she looks like a guy, but like she carried herself I don't know. I kind of forgot about.
She had the sleazy factor going really well.
Yeah.
Like the way she portrayed the whole sniveling sleaziness of the Emperor was just perfectly done, I thought.
Yeah, like I bought into the character. But also, but it wasn't like it wasn't like a serious effort to present herself to the world as a man. Do you know what I mean? Like she, you still knew it was Anita Mui, and there's sort of a, I don't know, like the movie's not, it's not like they're seriously trying to conceal the fact that it's Anita Mui. But yeah, I don't know. But I thought she did a really good job, and I liked Cecilia Cheung as the fox spirit, and I thought Sammi Cheng as the heroine was a really interesting character. But I think my favorite was actually, I like the advisors the best. The advisors sort of constantly going around rebuking the Emperor, and Just the every time he would do something bad, they're just like, oh, the emperor is a lech and he's dooming the empire, and they're sort of like doing these like on off the cuff memorials to him.
The historian character was really
Oh yeah, he was my favorite.
just the way he exaggerated everything. It was like the collapse or the calamity of the country and unfilial emperor drowning in lust or whatever.
Yeah, no, it was. I thought it was really amusing. But the other character that I really liked was the rebel. Was it Patriot C, played by Raymond Wong? That character who, what was it? He appeared. He appeared. They had some kind of martial contest that he won, and he was going to be given a position, but the emperor was furious because he's married to the Wu Yen character at this point, who has the weird mark on her face that's supposed to make her ugly, and the emperor is furious about this. So because the Patriot character has a similar mark on his face, he sort of unleashes all of his pent up rage at him, and this ultimately leads him to rebel against the empire, and it's a really, I mean, that was really elaborate. Like the number one, he tries to kill the emperor, and when he breaks in, like there's all this other stuff going on where Yin Chun has convinced the emperor to dress up as a woman so he can go to, what was it, like the North Palace and spy on Wu Yen, who's now his wife, in order to catch her having an affair with Yin Chun. So Yin Chun's kind of setting her up, and the Patriot falls in love with the emperor dressed as a woman, and then the emperor weaves this whole the emperor decides to really play up the deception, and it's like, oh, my life is a big tragedy, the emperor's forced me to marry against my will, and blah blah blah. And then he gives the rebel a jade hairpin and says, use the money from this to start your rebellion. And so he like plants the seed of this massive rebellion against him that comes to fruition later in the movie. So, things like this, those were the things that I really liked about the film.
Yeah, the plot, you have to give it a little bit of credit, I guess. It's not as simple or straightforward sometimes. Like they throw in a lot of random things. Like the mahjong scene with all the other kings was like really random, I thought, but it just made so much sense.
That was pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
That was like one of my favorite scenes. It was kind of like family game night. Here in America, we have they try to have family game night where everybody gets together and plays a game. And here the Fox Spirit is trying to get everybody to play these different games in order to stall. So I thought that was pretty clever to kind of throw stuff in like that.
Well, it was really funny too, because then he ends up like losing everything in the mahjong game,
everything.
Right? And didn't Wu Yen like win all of the like she didn't she come back victorious, and he had lost everything? Was that the
She beat the armies on the battlefield, comes back to find that the emperor has lost all the cities and counties that she defended, basically. Anyway,
so there's a lot of scenes like that, Yeah, when I see scenes like that too, I really wish I knew more about mahjong, because there's a lot of the humor seems specific to the game itself.
It's funny because it makes the assumption that everyone who speaks Cantonese will basically know the rules of mahjong. And I guess I guess using a population size of 1, I can say I know the rules of mahjong even though I can't play it myself.
Okay.
So maybe it is true, because it's such a prolific game in Hong Kong and China that everybody will have some exposure to it at some point if you like have relatives or grew up there. But the sort of joke going on there is that they are Ying Chun and the Emperor are just trying to make up the rules as they go along, and the very first hand that they win, the only game that they win on camera anyway, was like using the most basic of like the lowest tier of winning hands that's available. Whereas all the other emperors, when they were trying to win the first round, that they had like all these super rare hands that were that
that part I got.
were,
That one part I kind of figured out, but
yeah, I don't know. It was a very well executed joke. The way it comes back and bites him in the ass.
And the whole concept of the core love triangle is sort of about how the emperor is in what is it they say Wu Yen when all is wrong and Yin Chun when all is right. So he's sort of, when everything's peaceful and fine, he's always doting on Yin Chun. But when there's a crisis and he needs somebody who's capable, his attention shifts to Wu Yen. And there's go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, that's particular saying. Like, I don't know if this movie originated that saying because I don't recall learning about it anywhere else. If that makes sense.
Okay.
So I do wonder if this movie is like, maybe there was historically like a Wu Yan character and a Ying Chun character. Like we obviously have to exclude the existence of fox spirits and stuff like that, right? But it's possible that historically the Emperor Qi may have had two concubines, one who had like military power and stuff, and one who was just beautiful. But maybe the fighting was maybe the conflict was to a lesser extent than what was portrayed in this movie, because I don't think even in the Warring States period, at any point did 6 of the countries gang up on one of the
but,
and one general defended the entire country against 6 other armies. I don't think that was the thing that happened, but maybe my history's rusty.
Well, and one of the funny things that kind of keeps happening through the movie is basically like Yin Chun is trying to disrupt things because Yin Chun is in love with Yuan, and Yin Chun can be either a man or a woman in this until she gets pregnant at the end, and then she suddenly can't shift. But she basically keeps causing wars and problems, by doing things like insulting envoys. Like at one point she slaps an envoy, and that leads to war. And then they have like the 7 Nations Games, and I think she did something, and
she did a roundhouse.
She slapped
all 6 emperors.
Yeah,
which is a pretty impressive.
and so then everybody goes. So she just is constantly doing that. And there's also the sort of the this he's constantly sending one of them to prison and keeping one of them as like his lover type sort of thing. So it's very sort of, you're in favor, you're out of favor, and in the end they kind of decide that, oh, okay, like it's the situation we have is actually fine, so there was also the shadow play stuff in the movie, which I thought was kind of cool, because that was sort of like the framing device throughout the film, and they used it whenever they needed to elapse. Like, okay, a bunch of fighting happened. It's kind of clever because, number one, they don't have to invest any money, and
they save the budget. Yeah.
But you also get this really, I mean, shadow play performances look really nice on film like this, and so it was. I thought those interludes were really effective.
And the music during those scenes was worked very well as well, because we were looking this up, weren't we? This is was it Yellow Plum Opera, Huang Mei Opera? I guess that must be the sort of style of this. This is what the genre is listed as on the Hong Kong Movie Database. So I assume that the song that was being sung there was in the style of Huang Mei Opera. I think it was Sammi Cheng who sung that song. I mean, any 3 of the main lead actresses here could have sung that song. they are all very proficient singers in their own right as well. So, I think the music helped in those scenes very well as well, and actually the sort of the weird sort of swordplay stuff they were doing with the shadow puppets was very well done too. Like it felt more fluid than you'd think from like just puppets, if that makes sense.
No, it's really cool.
It totally does.
Because the parrying and the whole the fighting stuff was really well done.
The closest thing I can compare it to, if people haven't seen it, is if anyone's seen the 1992 movie Dracula by Francis Ford Coppola, there's a scene in there where they have like some kind of shadow play going on, and it's a similar type of situation where it's really sort of like technically and artistically like really high quality, and it's interesting because you get like it's like you're saying like you the fighting, it has its own little style to it that just really looks cool on the, I don't know what you call, like the screen that they have the shadow plays on. But people can Google it. You can Google a shadow play, and they're really fun to watch. But yeah, I don't know. The one of the scenes that the scene that kind of sold me on the film really was when the Emperor goes to what is it, Yaksha Mountain, and Wu Yan is the leader of the Yaksha Mountain bandits, and is trying to marry her, and she says, okay, I can marry you if you can answer like these 3 questions. And they're all like really scholarly, like erudite questions, like what are the 3 bonds? And the Emperor's like, oh, I really can't answer that. And then like, well, what are the 5 virtues? And he like really doesn't have a clue. And then like, what are the 6 arts? And he can't answer any of them. And he just says, like, I forfeit. And they're like, nope, that's the right answer. The right answer is that he forfeits. And so like, it's the, and it turns out that he's just basically never applied himself at any of the things that he was supposed to. And Wu Yan has done everything. Like, she lists off like all of her achievements, like by age 8, I had done this, by age 15, I had done this. And it was, and so it was, I don't know, that I thought that scene was pretty funny.
It was, and I think the way Anita Mui pulled off bragging about underachieving was pretty impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of somehow respect this person for just saying that they're a total I mean, it's an emperor, so I guess not a loser, but like a loser in like, just she hasn't really, there's really nothing. There's nothing.
There's nothing good about him.
Yeah,
basically,
no, not at all.
But
they're the perfect match because he's ignorant and she's so well trained. It's the yin and the yang.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess that's it. And and there's all. Yeah, I guess that's true. The I feel like It was I don't know, I lost my train of thought there. But one thing that I thought was also kind of fun about the film was the ancestors that were in the movie. The who was it, the Juan, Ancestor Juan, who was also played by Anita Mui, right? Is that
Mm-hmm.
It was also
yeah. That was a funny character. There was like an auntie and an uncle too. I think there were like 2 other ancestors.
Oh, they were guardian gods. They're like basic random deities more than relatives. I think they were actual.
Were they like door gods or something, or?
Yeah, earth gods.
Okay. But I thought that I thought that stuff was pretty interesting, and that also like there was like an ongoing thing between Ancestor Juan and Yin Chun, because Ancestor Juan is initially trying to thwart Yin Chun and constantly throwing these spells at her, and they just rebound back on Ancestor Juan, and he gets stuck in his own techniques and devices, and then he takes out, what was it, the supreme explosive device or something of that. And it's like a classic circular bomb with a
bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of his magical techniques and like weapons and stuff have really impressive sounding names. But it's basically a net, a bag, a sword, and ultimately a bomb from the 80s.
and the thing is, like all of his attempts to harm Yin Chun have backfired on him. And he's like, well, I'm going to use this ultimate bomb. She's like, well, what's going to happen if that one backfires? He's like, well, I'll die. And it ends up getting caught in his coat or something, and then Yin Chun puts it out for him, and at that point you realize she's not necessarily going to be like a totally evil fox spirit or something. And so because initially when the movie starts, she's a little bit merciless. Like she tries to kill Wu Yan when she goes into the well. She goes into the well. They're fighting over the ball, and Wu Yan jumps into the well, and she starts throwing stones down at her, and then convinces the emperor to throw boulders down there.
It was a pretty slapstick scene. It was kind of weird though. I was like, trying to work out what the thought process there was. Like she obviously didn't want to kill Wu Yan. I think maybe she tried to make her give up on trying to get the prize ball back to the emperor.
I don't know how much of it was that, or if they were just sort of dropping like the pretense and kind of like maybe in that moment you were supposed to take her seriously, even though it doesn't make sense for her to kill the person she's supposed to be in love with.
I don't know, like the way that she was tossing the rocks in, there's no way you could take that seriously at all, to be honest.
No,
Like,
I mean, she was just...
But then she gets the emperor to throw a big giant, like rock down there, and then she ends up kind of dying. Like Wu Yan gets out of the well and then punches her, and then Wu Yan gets charged with her murder. And then Yin Chun comes back as a servant.
Well, at that point, the emperor didn't even bother asking for any of their names. Really, he has no idea who these women are. So,
well, that's one of the funniest scenes. So she dies, and he's lamenting her loss, and then he's like, "I want like a great burial for her," and they're like, "Well, what's her name?" He's like, "I don't even know her name." This is supposed to be his one true love. Go ahead.
There was just one thing I wanted to point out that was interesting for you guys, is that the envoy guy, when he's like presenting the sword, he calls it the heavenly sword.
Yeah. I noticed that.
It was the same. It's the same name as the heavenly sword from the Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber series.
Okay, so that's supposed to be the same blade. Yeah, and it was like this rusty old sword, and that scene was pretty funny because what we see is the emperor is he's kind of getting extorted by these neighboring kingdoms, right? Like they come and they give him like some tree, like he gives him a tree that is.
That's a very classical sort of gangster thing to do in Hong Kong. Is that you would like move a big ass like tangerine or mandarin tree, I can't remember what type of citrus fruit it was, and plant it in the doorway of a business, and be like, I am here to bring you luck, and if you don't pay them, they don't move the plant out of the way.
Okay, that's a clever.
So it's a very interesting way of sort of like getting protection fees. I think it's got a more cultural sense to it than us straight up walking into a place and going pay us.
Yeah, I guess it's like it's sort of like the closest equivalent here is like nice story you have. Shame if something were to happen to it, kind of a thing. But. No, but and this is was it a tangerine tree that tasted like durian? Yeah. that was a funny scene.
There was a lot of things they're talking about. They were using a bit of modern terminology there, I think, as well. It was just like talking about spliced plants or whatever.
but yeah, so it tastes like durian, which is like a very strong tasting fruit. And then they ask for 1 million gold, and the emperor kind of has to give it. And then they offer the sword, and they want 2 cities for the sword, like this rusty sword. But they've brought a hero to use the sword, and this is where like the emperor has to go, and Wu Yan is in prison at this point, essentially for being ugly and ostensibly for murdering his one true love, and that's sort of like her thing in the movie is she's like a martial hero basically, and he needs her to perform these kinds of deeds. So he needs her to contend with this swordsman who's wielding the heaven sword. And then, like we said, after the situation is de-escalated, Yin Chun ends up slapping the envoy, and then they go to war.
And Yin Chun gets banished to jail This Wu Yan and her swap places. But I just really like the letter thing as well. Where Yin Chen is constantly writing these letters to the emperor, and he's just like, oh, this slut, and he's throwing all these letters around, like not even reading them. But the moment the war is over, and then Wu Yan's like sending all these letters, asking about the emperor, and ask, how are you? Are you keeping warm and that sort of stuff? He gets bored of it and he starts picking up the letters that you're throwing aside from Yin Chen.
It's all erotic poetry.
Erotic poetry. Oh no! And he's like quietly shoving it up his sleeves. Oh no! Dirty prose. Oh, how can we have this sort of thing? Oh, it was a great scene. Like the whole movie is full of like little gems like this, but but like I said, like it's one of those things where once you sort of seen it once, it does. You sort of when you get to accept it, it loses the impact.
No, that's it, and that was another one of those scenes too, where the advisors sort of pipe in and say something. I forget what they said there, but in the scene when he with the heaven sword, I think what they said was the emperor is seduced, his poor judgment affects everyone, the whole country is doomed. It's these really these really bold pronouncements, and they're doing it constantly in the movie. So I don't know, those really, I don't know, I like the rhythm of those things. But yeah, I think that the poetry scene was pretty indicative of the overall situation. It was just kind of it was always about lusting after Yin Chun in times of peace and relying on Wu Yan in times of crisis. But yeah, so I don't know. What do you guys think of the ending of the movie? Like the end, Wu Yan leaves the emperor because the emperor is kind of proven to be sort of shallow and selfish, and then she holds a competition for her love, and the emperor has to kind of lower himself and compete for Wu Yan's affection. And there's a after the competition, that's when sort of the rebellion that he planted the seed of or no, before the competition, right? That's what kicks off her leaving, I think.
I think the fact that he lost the country and lost her in a bet to the other emperors was what kicked off Wu Yan leaving. And she's like, well, if you can even take your wife and gamble her and lose her, then you're pretty much as scummy as you can get. But the rebellion was being reported on at the same time. I don't think she really cared. Like at that point in time, the rebellion wasn't really important. It was only until like everyone had left it that the rebellion sort of kicked in, and he had to disguise himself again as the Northern Consort or whatever it was, and crawl through the petal. Despite the ancestor guy showing up and it's like, oh, you unfilial descendant, you're dressing as a woman, it's fine. You can be seduced by an evil fox spirit. That's no problem. You can abuse your lovely Wu Yan. That's okay too, but you can't dress as a woman. That's where we draw the line.
Yeah, that's where the line is drawn. No, there was a lot of humor like that, and I thought that was one of the more effective parts of the movie. Is this really intense patriot sea guy falling in love with the emperor, and then demanding that when he does hold his rebellion, he'll only spare the emperor if the Northern Palace concubine is brought to him, and I think he even, what does he get? He gives up the throne because it's boring, right? Like he doesn't even want to.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I enjoyed that character, and there was also a scene with Wu Yan, she like, again, like she's got this little red mark on her face, and that's supposed to make her ugly, which it really doesn't. It's not like, just like a little
Well,
red.
it's like a painted skin resurrection, right? Where that it was that, like, their idea of a scarring was basically a red mark on their face as well, right?
Yeah, she's still very. It's funny because she's still basically pretty, but the Emperor is so repulsed by her because of this red stain on her, like right above her eye. And the night that she gets married, she asks Ancestor Juan to help her remove it, and Ancestor Juan is proven himself to be really bad at performing magic, and he does it anyways, and it just keeps having catastrophic effects. And so, like, I think the end result is she ends up with a beard, and then they shave the beard.
Man, basically.
Yeah. He ends up with a beard.
Yeah.
Well, but you don't realize that until the very end. So she ends up with a beard, and they shave the beard, and they're like, "Well, it's gone. Like, you look beautiful." But then her voice is changed, and then he's like, "Well, just speak in falsetto." So she starts speaking in falsetto, but then you find out she has a penis. And so, like, they have to give her a special remedy, and and it's a whole thing, and so it just kind of keeps going on and on and on. But she ultimately gets the mark removed, and she has a night with the Emperor, and the Emperor treats her very nicely because she doesn't have the mark. But then in the morning, the mark is back, and the Emperor is up to the same old tricks.
I think the best part of that is when the Emperor is, like, being forced to go to the bridal chambers, basically, and then it's like, fine, I'll do it. I'll sacrifice myself, and he storms in, and he just, like, lies down on the bed going, "Do what you want to me."
Well, yeah, because they say because he promised to marry her, and the advisors are like, "But I heard you said you would," and he's like, "Well, I'm going to go back on my word," and then, like, immediately the guy is like, the Emperor does not abide by his own word, and so it's like these advisors are constantly kind of keeping him in check by just by issuing they're kind of like they're like memorials, I guess. I don't know exactly what they were supposed to be, but they're like criticisms of the Emperor that he sort of has to stomach, and yeah, so yeah, that scene was I thought pretty amusing.
And I think during that scene as well, when they were sort of play fighting after the Emperor tries to sneak back into the bedroom after seeing that her scar was gone, it was quite amusing. There was a lot of times when you could see Sammi Cheng, like, holding back laughter because it was just so ridiculous. And I think that scene sort of highlights, like, the actresses in this movie. They were having a blast of a time filming it, I think, and it is a bit of like a feel good movie type of thing, isn't it? And I think it's fine that the plot itself was a bit ridiculous, and and that the fact that the Emperor was a bit of a scum and useless, which that didn't really change even at the end of the movie, really, right? So I think all that is fine as long as you take the movie as something which you can enjoy watching once, and you can enjoy seeing the characters and the actresses interact with each other.
Well, I would say the Emperor kind of changed by the end, because he initially runs away, and it looks like he's leaving them to their doom, but then he comes back and he admits to Patriot Sea that he's the Northern Palace Queen, and then he takes responsibility,
and he causes the Patriot to have a brief moment of confusion about his sexuality.
But he gets over it, and he doesn't become a general as he originally was intended. Because the whole thing that happened with him was he was just supposed to be getting awarded a title for winning a contest anyways, and it mushroomed into this full scale rebellion. So I don't know. I just the way that whole thing just originated from a small little moment was hysterical to me. But yeah, I think the Emperor kind of changed at the end.
He was less he was less scummy, we don't know. Like, we didn't get enough of him after the series. I don't think his character was supposed to be redeemed by the end of the
Well,
movie. But
yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, in the even the way it's resolved, Ancestor Juan just ties a love knot around all three of them, and it's like, like I'm just like, I'm just gonna, you can't, you guys can't leave now. So
yeah. But the fact that she still had the blotch on her face showed that she was still in love with the Emperor, but she just wasn't really sure that she wanted to be with the Emperor.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And I guess that's one of the messages from the movie that I don't quite like, is that, you just because you love someone doesn't necessarily mean you have to be with them if that's going to make everyone miserable. That's going to probably be way too deep for this kind of movie. Like, we don't need to think so much about it, but
yeah, I'd be wary of taking life lessons from a movie like this, just because you could get some really funky ideas.
Abusive relationships are okay, apparently.
But well, and the whole thing. I mean, I like the thing with the love spell and how she has the mark, and like, it's, the more she loves him, the more present the mark is, and if she isn't in love with him, then the mark will vanish. And there is a point, so that, they set that up, and then at the moment when the mark vanishes, you know exactly what it means. So I thought it was kind of an effective visual cue. But yeah, it's still, I don't know, pretty, pretty hard to say that he's a fully reformed person by the end of the movie.
So this is a sort of random side question here, but do you think, like, with a bit of tweaking, do you think this would fit into the sort of stories that a Strange Tales type of story?
Oh yeah, definitely, I do. I absolutely do. Because it's like, it's got like all of the elements that, like, I sort of expect from the Strange Tales stories. I mean, number one, it's
it's
like
got
so
a fox spirit.
well, there's a fox spirit, and there's a love triangle, and like the Emperor is caught in the middle, and and also the fox spirit is a very human character. Like, she almost doesn't have to be a fox spirit for the movie to work. Do you know what I mean? Like, she could work as, just a normal woman who just happens to have been really seductive and won over the Emperor somehow. And so, like, it fits in that sense, that, like, the supernatural feels like kind of almost like every day in a lot of ways. And also, it just seemed to be like the kind of pattern that you see in a lot of these Pu Songling stories. And I was even wondering if it was one, and I just didn't know. Like there's so many stories that are so similar in the Strange Tales that it's easy to sort of lose track.
I mean, I feel like this may be inspired somewhat by Pu Songling stories as well. Like, although I don't know, do the Strange Tales usually, like, get into the level of emperors and stuff as well, or is it normally just sort of like officials?
No, they have
than...
it can be emperors too, but I mean, usually it's like more the main, like, if there's like a story about a ghost that's in love with somebody, it's usually a scholar official who's the recipient. That seems to be the standard, but there are other types of people for sure. But yeah, I would say it felt like it. The only thing that I would add to that is you do kind of forget about the supernatural element as the movie goes on. Like, it has to kind of remind you that there are these supernatural things going on. But again, I think that might just be a product of, they're supernatural, but they're still just kind of like you and me.
And then the magic stuff was pretty mundane most of the time, to be honest. Like, it was just like, yeah, changing, from male to female, and trying to move a birthmark around the face, and failing at using magical treasures.
Yeah, no. So I mean, yeah, I would say it has the elements, at least from my opinion. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to do some Pu Songling things in the future. But yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed it. I had fun. And I think it's like you say. I think it's the kind of movie where you can just kind of go and enjoy yourself, and that's sort of the point. And I wouldn't necessarily go in and try to think too deeply on it. There's probably some depth to it if we really like cracked into it, but I don't know. I think it would require a level of like understanding whatever source material they're drawing on. That do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like if there is any source material, because I think that the key takeaway from this is the phrase, Wu Yan when all is wrong and Ying Chen when all is right. Like that saying, can just be applied to people in general, right? As a don't just talk to people when you need them for something, basically.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, no, he's basically using people as like a means to an end, is essentially. And he's a lusty guy, so in times of peace, that's why he's always with Yin Chun, and only when his position needs to be secured does he look to Wu Yan.
Yeah, I think that sort of saying is like the Chinese equivalent to like Aesop's fables type of thing, where it in a very short idiom, it captures a lot of story that which you may not necessarily understand unless you actually took some time to look into it. And there's even the question of whether this is actually a saying or there's something they just made up in the movie and that somehow managed to propagate into society.
So I don't know. Any other thoughts on this one before we head out?
Definitely watch it once. I'd say the humor is very well done in the movie. Probably wouldn't want to watch it twice, but that might just be me.
No, I completely agree with Kenny. I think once is enough.
Yeah. I usually watch the movies on this show like 3 or 4 times before we do them, but this one, because this was one I hadn't seen and I knew nothing about it, I wanted to just kind of get the review experience, like get the viewing and not like over analyze it. And I watched it only once, and that's kind of a rarity for me. And I think that was sufficient for me in this case. I think if it might be something where I like, if I wanted to show it to somebody else, I might watch it again, but I wouldn't necessarily watch it again on my own unless I really forgot all about it and kind of wanted to refresh myself. But yeah, I would agree. And so next week we're going to be doing The Enchantress and continuing with this theme of spirited beasts and ghosts, and Dion won't be with us, so it's going to probably just be me, Kenny, and Adam, I believe. And also, as always, we have a Patreon. You can check out the Patreon page, and if you want, contribute to the podcast. We use that money for movies and things. We just basically the upkeep costs of doing the episodes. And so until then, we will talk to you later.